Tess Linton turned 30 the same way she approached most major milestones, with a well-timed lie to herself. "I'm fine." She said it to the bathroom mirror. She said it to her toothbrush. She even said it to the cat that did not belong to her but routinely screamed outside her apartment window like it had shares in her emotional breakdowns. But turning 30 wasn't about being fine. It was about being single, surrounded by coupled-up co-workers who hosted joint engagement pregnancy promotion parties, and wondering why her most stable relationship was with her coffee mug, whose name, for the record, was Harold. Harold had a chip in his rim and a slogan that said, "Caffeine is cheaper than therapy." If that wasn't a metaphor for her love life, she didn't know what was. Tess padded barefoot across the floor of her studio apartment, glorified shoebox with a kitchen sink, and opened her fridge. Inside, 2 condiments, a mystery container she had stopped emotionally investing in around April, and a bottle of champagne she'd bought just in case. She stared at it. "You'll probably outlive me," she told the bottle. The bottle said nothing, which felt like judgment. Her phone buzzed. Group chat. "Rena, surprise brunch. Be outside in 10. Followed by a gif of a waffle twerking. Tess groaned. Friends were the worst. 10 minutes later, she was in an Uber sandwiched between Rena, her best friend and professional social saboteur, and a helium balloon shaped like a broken heart. "It was the only one left at the party store," Rena said, straight-faced. "I took it as a sign." The brunch spot was called Ecstasy, which Tess felt was already doing too much. Any restaurant name that flirted with wordplay and eggs probably had a self-serve mimosa bar, and at least one bathroom mirror with neon cursive that said, "You're yoking amazing. Are you excited for your 30s? Rena asked, chewing gum aggressively. Tess looked over the table, which was filling up with people she sort of knew. Friends of friends, co-workers. One guy she was pretty sure ghosted her in 2019, and now seemed to be dating someone named Stephanie with an F. "I'm thrilled," Tess said. "Excited to enter the decade where my back hurts for no reason, and all my celebrity crushes start looking like someone's dad. Cheers to stability and hydration," someone yelled, clinking a mimosa glass. "Cheers to becoming the hot aunt," Rena added. "Cheers to therapy," another voice chimed in, more earnestly than anyone wanted to interrogate. A small red envelope was slid in front of her, unlabeled, square and unusually heavy for paper. It stood out in the sea of glitter gift bags and hangover prep kits. "Ooh," Rena said, eyes glinting. "Is that from your office, weirdo?" "Which one?" Tess asked. She had 2. The weird one. Zoe. The one who wears capes and talks to orchids like they owe her money. Tess raised an eyebrow and turned the envelope over. No name. No sender. Just a single line embossed in gold foil. "This is your last first date." Tess blinked. "Okay. Oh. Threatening greeting cards are back." Rena snatched the envelope out of her hands. "Ominous. Like it. Kind of feels like it should burst into flames when you finish reading it." "Maybe it's from my future self," Tess said. "Like a romantic warning from the abyss. Or a stalker with dramatic flair," Rena said cheerfully. "Honestly, I wouldn't mind." Tess slipped the envelope into her purse, mostly to shut everyone up. "It's probably from my mom. She's been on this romance is a choice kick lately. She even signed me up for a singles hike." "Hike, Rena? In nature? With men? Wearing vests?" "Gross," Rena said. "Straight people are wild." Brunch proceeded. There were pancakes. Someone ordered a cinnamon roll the size of a steering wheel. A woman named Jen with tons cried because she was so proud of how Tess hadn't settled. A guy named Mark tried to mansplain the evolution of brunch. A bottle of Prosecco died tragically young. By the time Tess left Ecstasy, she was 2 mimosas deep, emotionally bloated, and halfway convinced the red envelope was some elaborate prank by the universe. It started raining while she waited for the rideshare, of course. That fine, passive-aggressive kind of rain that doesn't fall so much as hover, just enough to make you damp and question all your choices. She ducked into the nearest bookstore/cafe to avoid getting soaked. The kind of place that sold ironic poetry journals and had chalkboard menus with bad puns like "Sip Happens." It smelled like rain and cinnamon and paper and possibly regret. In short, perfect. That's when she saw him. Leaning against the window, drinking black coffee from a chipped ceramic mug, was a man. Not just a man. A man. Tousled hair, smile like he'd just won a bet with God, wearing an old blue raincoat and damp sneakers. His umbrella was broken and dangling like it had been mugged by the weather. And in his lap sat a very familiar object. A square red envelope. Tess stared. The man looked up. Right at her. He blinked. Then, slowly, like a rom-com movie moment that knew it was being watched, he held up the envelope. "Excuse me," he said, as she hesitated near the pastry case. "Did you, get one of these too?" Tess narrowed her eyes. "If this is a pyramid scheme, I swear to God." No, he laughed. "Just thought I might not be the only one who got cursed today." She approached, cautiously. "What does yours say?" He flipped it over. "This is your last first date." Tess exhaled through her nose. "What are the odds?" "Either very low," he said, "or suspiciously designed for meet cuties." She tried to read him. He didn't look like a stalker. He looked like the human version of a rainy Sunday and good soup. "All right, universe," she muttered, pulling out her envelope. "You better not be screwing with me." "Wait," he said, grinning. "So you did get one." She sat down across from him without quite meaning to. "Do you often lure women into cafes with mystery mail?" "Only on Thursdays. I'm Sam, by the way." "Tess. Not short for anything." "Tess. Strong name. Very literary. And yet, I peaked in 3rd grade." They stared at each other. Lightning cracked outside, as if on cue. Sam lifted his coffee. "So, Tess, want to make it count?" Tess looked down at her envelope. Then at him. Then at the rain. She smiled. "Sure. But just so you know, if this ends with either of us turning into frogs, I'm suing someone." It wasn't even a date. Not technically. No dinner reservations. No Cabernet. No dress code beyond "survive mild hypothermia." But as Tess and Sam walked out of the cafe into the damp early evening, she felt that unfamiliar thrum in her chest, the one that usually meant something new was starting. Or she'd had too much coffee. Probably both. "You don't find it weird?" Tess asked as they strolled down the street under a single umbrella. "Two people getting the exact same cryptic envelope on the same day?" "Extremely weird," Sam said cheerfully. "But weird in a main character energy way, not a buried in the woods by midnight way. Yet. I mean," he continued, "either we're in a rom-com, or we've been recruited for a government experiment on human connection." Tess squinted. "So. Basically the same thing." "Exactly. Now, what's your stance on dumplings?" "In favor. Very pro-dumpling." "Why?" Sam pointed toward a glowing red sign across the street. "Dumpling Dynasty. No refunds, no regrets." "I only trust places that look like they've seen things," he said solemnly. "You in? Do they serve emotional closure with chili oil?" "Absolutely not." "Perfect." Inside Dumpling Dynasty, the lighting was too bright. The staff was shouting in 3 languages, and the air smelled like garlic and mystery. They sat at a sticky table under a dragon-shaped light fixture. Sam ordered something called the Regret Sampler. "You ever been married?" Tess asked, stabbing a soup dumpling. "Not yet," he said. "Came close once. Engagement got cancelled after a very enlightening ayahuasca retreat." Tess blinked. "Okay. I wasn't expecting ayahuasca ex-fiancé energy from you." "I'm full of surprises," he said. "Also trauma. But mostly surprises." She snorted. "Worst date you've ever been on?" he asked, sipping soda through a bright green straw. Tess didn't hesitate. "Guy took me axe throwing. Told me it would be empowering. Then spent 2 hours explaining the correct way to hold a blade and called me feral but coachable." Sam choked on his drink. "That's horrifying." "I beat his score by 30 points, Tess said. "He ghosted me the next day." They laughed so hard the woman at the next table looked over in open disgust. Sam raised his chopsticks in apology. Outside, the rain had turned from moody drama movie to aggressively rinsing the earth. They stood at the corner, debating where to go next. "There's this rooftop I like," Sam said. "Technically it's closed to the public. But I've got a key." "You have a roof key. It's complicated. Don't ask questions." "Naturally," she said. "Let's go." The building was 3 blocks away. A narrow office with an old metal staircase and a questionable elevator that smelled like melted cough drops. At the top was a rusted door and beyond it, the city in silver. The rain had calmed again. Mist hovered over the skyline like a secret being kept. They stood in silence, just looking. "I like it up here," Sam said. "It feels like a reset button." Tess nodded. She wanted to kiss him. That was the thing. The strange, bold truth of it. She didn't even know his middle name, but something about this entire night felt like a shortcut through all the usual bullshit. Then came the thought, don't be stupid. This kind of thing doesn't happen to you. So instead of kissing him, she pulled out her phone and hit play on her Dance Like Nobody's Employed playlist. The speakers crackled with a 90s slow jam. "Oh no," Sam said. "You're one of those." "One of what?" "People who still use playlists with feelings." "Shut up and dance, mystery envelope." They danced badly. Tess kicked off her shoes. Sam did a move that looked like jazz hands having a panic attack. They laughed until they couldn't breathe. An hour later, they ducked into a corner bodega, drenched and dripping. Tess grabbed a pack of gummy worms and a tiny comb. Emergency romance kit. Sam handed her a towel from the register bin labeled, "Not clean, just dry." "You always do this?" she asked, rubbing rain from her hair. "Take girls on secret rooftop dance sessions. Only the ones who threaten to sue the universe." She looked at him then. Really looked. And in that small moment, under the fluorescent hum of a convenience store that smelled like meat and mango candles, Tess wanted the date to never end. Which scared her. "I've got a million things wrong with me," she said suddenly quiet. "I overthink. Panic text. Believe in luck. I hate being vulnerable. And I'm really, really bad at casual." Sam nodded like he understood more than she meant to say. "I once ghosted a girl because she said she didn't like dogs," he said. "So yeah. Not exactly the patron saint of emotional maturity." They stood there, gummy worms in hand, 2 strangers admitting that maybe, just maybe, they wanted to be known anyway. "I'd like to see you again," he said. "Tomorrow. Lunch." She hesitated for a heartbeat. Then, "Okay." Sam pulled out his phone. "Instagram. Or are you one of those mysterious no social media types?" "Instagram's fine. But I will judge your grid." "Joke's on you. My grid is mostly blurry food pics and one photo of a chair I thought looked philosophical." They exchanged usernames. She watched his profile load as Sam drifted. A sleepy-looking dog in the profile pic. Fewer than 50 posts. No red flags, unless you counted that one quote about stillness in a serif font. "See you tomorrow?" he asked again just to be sure. "Definitely," she said. And for the first time in a long time, Tess let herself believe in something new. Tess woke up smiling. It was an unfamiliar thing, waking up with her face doing something nice instead of a low-level scowl at the ceiling fan. She stretched, stared at the ceiling for a second, and then, "Oh my God. I have plans today," she said aloud, slightly startled by the fact that she was excited. She checked her phone. Nothing. No text. No calls. No vaguely flirty memes. No "can't stop thinking about you" and or those gummy worms messages. Okay. Will. He's probably not a 7 a.m. texter, she told herself, as she threw on jeans and a striped shirt that made her feel like a French detective who moonlighted as a romantic. By 11 o'clock, still no word. She refreshed her inbox 3 times. She opened Instagram to see if he'd posted anything. He had not. Unless you counted an old photo of a dog that looked like it was judging her. "Maybe he's just casual," she muttered, which was code for Maybe he died. That's why he didn't text. She arrived at the lunch spot they agreed on, a little sidewalk cafe called Bean there. Done that, because apparently pun crimes were thriving in this city. She grabbed a table by the window and ordered an iced latte like a woman who definitely wasn't spiraling. She checked her phone again. Still nothing. 10 more minutes. She tried to distract herself by fake-checking her email. And then, just as she was about to give up, she saw him. Blue jacket. Same hair. Same crooked smile. Same umbrella that looked like it had fought a wind demon and lost. He was walking toward the cafe. But not toward her. He was with someone. Woman. Brunette. Laughing. Holding his arm like they were already 2 dates deep and halfway to a vacation home. Tess stood. Wave. Sam glanced at her. And then smiled politely. The way you smile at someone who might be asking for directions. The way you smile at a stranger. He walked past. Tess? The server asked, setting down her sandwich. Cancel that, she said, already grabbing her bag. I just lost my appetite. And possibly my sanity. She followed them halfway down the block. Not in a weird way. More like a romantic espionage with mild stalking way. They stopped outside a bookstore. Sam leaned in to look at the display. The girl said something and he laughed. He laughed. The same way he'd laughed last night, when she'd called herself a relationship disaster with charm. She stepped closer. Hey, she said, heart pounding. Sam. He turned, looked right at her, and said, Hi. Sorry, do I know you? Tess blinked. What? The woman beside him raised an eyebrow. Is everything okay? Sam looked confused but kind. Sorry. You look familiar, but I don't think we've met. Tess's mouth opened, then closed, then opened again like a Wi-Fi signal trying to reconnect. We went out last night, she said slowly. The bookstore. Dumplings. Vane. You told me about the ayahuasca ex. We danced like idiots. Remember? He laughed uncomfortably. That's honestly a very specific and wonderful story, but I think you've got the wrong guy. No, Tess said, her voice sharper now. This isn't funny. You gave me a red envelope. Sam blinked. Then, cautiously, he pulled something from his coat pocket. A red envelope. But it was sealed. Still perfectly crisp. Untouched. He held it up. You mean like this? Tess stared at it. The envelope in her purse suddenly weighed 1,000 pounds. I think you're confusing me with someone else, Sam said gently. I'm really sorry. She looked at the girl beside him, then at him, then turned and walked away without another word. Back home, Tess didn't cry right away. First, she took off her shoes with theatrical fury. Then she grabbed Harold the coffee mug and filled him with wine, because at this point they were in a codependent relationship. She stared at the red envelope on her kitchen counter. Her hands moved on autopilot. She opened it. Inside, the message had changed. It no longer said, "This is your last first date." Now it said, "This was your last first date." Tess let out a hollow laugh. Then a real one. Then a sob that was also a laugh again. She flopped onto her couch. "Okay," she said to the ceiling. "What the actual hell is happening?" Harold didn't answer. But then again he never did. 2 days. That's how long it took for Tess to convince herself she was delusional, sleep-deprived, or possibly part of a hidden camera show hosted by sadistic wizards. "Maybe he has a twin," she muttered, scrolling through at Sam drifted again, squinting at a blurry group photo from 2018. An evil twin. With excellent taste in dumplings and mediocre umbrellas. "Girl," said Rena, who had been summoned for emergency backup and brought a 4-pack of wine coolers. "You are spiraling. This is an Olympic-level spiral." "I'm not spiraling. I'm investigating. You followed a man 3 blocks and interrogated him like a rom-com detective." Just pause. "Okay, fair." They sat on her couch, the red envelope between them like an accusation. "It changed," Tess said. "The message literally changed." Rena took a sip of her wine cooler. "You ever think maybe the envelope's like a mood ring? Maybe it just reflects your vibe. So what, it's judging me? Well, someone has to. The next afternoon, Tess left her apartment to get groceries and not think about any of this. She walked because walking meant motion, and motion meant productivity, and productivity was a great way to drown mild existential horror. She cut through the park, listened to a podcast she couldn't pay attention to, bought celery she didn't need, and then stopped. There he was, leaning over a fruit cart, arguing with a vendor about whether pluets were a scam. Same voice, same jacket, same slightly crinkled eyes. Tess froze behind a tree like a confused squirrel. He turned to her. Smile. Not a polite, distant stranger smile. Your cute smile. Hey, he called out. You lost too. These apples are looking at me with intent. Tess stared at him. He took a step closer. I'm Sam, by the way. Course he was. So, you're just everywhere now? Tess said, 15 minutes later as they walked side by side down the street. He had offered to buy her a coffee. She said yes, mostly to see if the world would glitch again. Sam laughed. Do I seem like a professional coincidence? You seem like something. She asked him where he worked. Same answer as last time. She asked if he believed in fate. Same quote about timing and sandwiches. She asked his favorite food. Dumplings, he said. Course. I know this great place, he added. Kind of loud. Kind of chaotic. Perfect. She let out a soft, stunned laugh. Let me guess, she said. Dumpling Dynasty. His eyes widened. You've been. She nodded, trying to look casual while her brain screamed internally like an air horn. Happening. Inside Dumpling Dynasty, nothing had changed. Same dragon lamp. Same sticky tables. Same laminated menu covered in chili oil fingerprints. Tess knew what he was going to order before he did. She even recited it with him. Regret sampler, they said in sync. Sam looked delighted. Wow. We are vibing. Vibing, Tess echoed, sipping her soda like it was laced with sedatives. They sat. They joked. He told the exact same story about the ex-fiancée and the retreat. Her reactions were different, but his rhythm, his laugh, even his straw twirling, all identical. She leaned in. You ever feel like you've had this conversation before? He blinked. Déjà vu. More like déjà. Aggressively. She looked him in the eye. What would you say if I told you we've had this exact date already? I'd say you've either got a wild imagination or we've time-traveled and I forgot to pack snacks. Tess smiled tightly. Right. Obviously. Later that night, she walked home in a daze. Sam had said goodnight with a hopeful grin. Told her he'd love to see her again. She'd nodded like everything was normal. Then, just like before, he pulled out his phone. You on Instagram? He asked. Or are you one of those mysterious, analog people who makes eye contact in public? It was the same voice. The same smile. The same question down to the exact phrasing. Tess answered numbly. Instagram's fine. Cool. I'm at Sam drifted. Of course you are, she said. They exchanged handles again. Again. And then he said, see you tomorrow? Tess forced a smile. Yeah, definitely. She turned, walked away, mind spinning. Behind her, Sam did the same. She reached her apartment. Grabbed the red envelope off her counter. Ripped it open. Still the same. This was your last first date. Tess sat down on the floor. Not the couch. Not a chair. Just full-on floor energy. The envelope slipped from her fingers and floated gently into Harold the mug, who had been repurposed for dry cereal. She stared at nothing. Then pulled out her phone and Googled. Am I in a time loop or just losing my mind? There are two types of people in the world. People who gracefully accept strange, unexplainable things. Tess Linton, who created a spreadsheet titled Evidence of Temporal Romance Trauma v3. She was not okay. The moment she accepted she was in a time loop, or a relationship carousel with magical side effects, she did what any modern high-functioning adult would do. She started color-coding her emotional breakdown. Her bedroom wall now had a date debrief corkboard. Each pin represented one of her first dates with Sam. All 4 of them. Same conversations. Same laughs. Same perfect, stupid, wonderful dumplings. Different outfits. Slight differences in weather. Once he wore a purple beanie that made him look like a sentient grape. But otherwise, identical. The only constant. Envelope. Every time she opened it, the message read, "This was your last first date." "Liar," she muttered, pinning a fresh post-it next to Tuesday's encounter. "You smug little cryptic bastard." Harold the mug sat on her desk, currently stuffed with colored pencils and resentment. She turned on her laptop camera and hit record. Loop log 5.0 Thursday. Still in the loop. Still no idea how. Today I pretended to be a marine biologist. Sam asked if I'd ever wrestled an octopus. Said yes. We bonded over our mutual fear of jellyfish. I'm starting to think I could tell this man I'm a lizard in a trench coat and he'd still offer to split dumplings. She leaned closer to the screen. Do not fall in love with this man. I'm serious. He's basically a charm factory. And he doesn't remember you. You're like a romantic Groundhog Day with better lighting. She ended the recording, sighed, and flopped onto her bed like a fainting Victorian widow. Loop log 6.0 Saturday. New plan. Disrupt the pattern. Tess told Sam she hated dumplings. He looked devastated, like she'd told him she kicked puppies for fun. But instead of going to Dumpling Dynasty, they wandered into a taco truck. The conversation shifted slightly, less about ayahuasca, more about irrational fears. His raccoons with human hands. Hers. Answering unknown numbers. At one point he paused. Have we met before? Tess's heart stopped. Why do you ask? I don't know. You just feel familiar. She laughed too hard. That's because I'm aggressively generic. They didn't kiss, but they almost did. And when she got home, the envelope still hadn't changed. By the time loop log 9.0 rolled around, Tess had tried everything. Pretending she was a Canadian pop star named Tessie L. Ordering anchovies to test his gag reflex. Saying yes when he asked if she liked jazz, she didn't. Saying no when he asked if she liked dogs, a lie that hurt her soul. Nothing worked. He forgot her every time. But she didn't forget him. She remembered his laugh. His awful umbrella. The way he talked about books like they had blood types. She remembered how he always held the door with his back, like some kind of modern-day gentleman giraffe. Worse, she remembered how good it felt to be seen. Even if the seeing only lasted one night. The 10th loop broke something. Not dramatically. Not with a crash or an envelope bursting into flames. Just a glance. They were sitting at their usual corner table, mid-sip, mid-laugh, mid-replay. And Tess said something she'd only said in loop log 4.0. That lamp looks like it's judging me. Sam looked up at the dragon light fixture. And said, I think it likes you this time. Tess stared. He blinked. Sorry. That was weird. I don't know why I said this time. It just came out. She laughed. Too loud. Almost nervously. It's okay, she said. We're all weird. But as they walked out into the night, as he waved goodbye, as he promised again to message her, Tess felt something shift. A wrinkle. A flicker of memory where there shouldn't be one. Was it breaking? Or was she? She didn't know. She only knew that she was still falling. And this time she might not bounce. The 11th loop began like all the others. With potential. It ended with Tess walking away mid-dumpling, mumbling something about needing to check on a fictional pet turtle named Greg. Sam looked disappointed. She didn't care. She did. But she was too tired to admit it. The charm had worn off. The sparkle had dulled. Now it was just a performance. A perfect loop where she played the part of a witty, mysterious girl over and over again, waiting for someone to remember her. Spoiler, no one did. Not even Sam. Especially not Sam. She wandered aimlessly through the city, rain tapping her hood like a slow applause for her unraveling. That's when she saw it. Bookstore. Not a chain. Not even a hip indie shop. Just a crooked little building squeezed between a dry cleaner and a dentist, with a faded sign that said, Theory and Things. Used books and possibly truth. Tess hesitated, then stepped inside. It smelled like cardamom and dust and stories people gave up on halfway through. The front desk was covered in teacups and sticky notes with things like, Remember, spiders equals reality check and do not trust Tuesday energy. Welcome, called a voice from somewhere behind a curtain of hanging postcards. A woman emerged, 70s maybe, in layers of mismatched knits and a scarf that looked like it had once dated a wizard. I'm not buying anything, Tess said automatically. Of course not, the woman said. You're just waiting for the ache in your chest to name itself. Tess blinked. Okay. Are you psychic or just aggressively poetic? The woman smiled. I'm Marjorie. I used to be a therapist. Now I help people get unstuck. From what? From themselves mostly. Tess gave her a wary look. I'm fine. People who say that usually aren't. Tess sighed. Do you have anything on time loops? Marjorie raised an eyebrow. Oh, you're that kind of stuck. Tess showed her the envelope. Marjorie didn't gasp, didn't scream, didn't say, Oh my God, I thought those were a myth. She just nodded. You've looped, she said, as casually as if Tess had just said she had allergies. Excuse me. Marjorie pulled out a worn book and flipped through it. Soft curses. Self-woven loops. They happen more often than you'd think. Not spells exactly, more like emotional recursion. English, please. You're repeating something because your heart doesn't believe it's safe to move forward, Marjorie said gently. So it keeps resetting. Tess frowned. You're saying I did this. To myself. Not on purpose. Fear is a creative little monster. Builds patterns. Walls. Sometimes even red envelopes. Tess stared at the page. An illustration showed a girl walking in circles, her own footprints circling around a glowing center she never touched. I've changed things, Tess said. I've tested the loop. It doesn't break. Marjorie handed her a small notebook. Try writing this down. What am I afraid will happen if I let someone really love me? I don't need therapy homework. Yes, you do. Tess walked home slowly. The rain had turned soft again, like a memory being whispered. She passed the places she and Sam had shared, again and again, and thought about all the almosts in her life. Almost moved in with Max in 2017. Almost told Renee she was in love. Almost changed cities. Almost opened her own studio. Almost believed she could be happy. She always stopped short. Pulled back just before the thing she wanted could take root. Now the universe, or her own cowardice, was making her live that hesitation on loop. She opened the notebook. What am I afraid will happen if I let someone really love me? She didn't have an answer. But for the first time she wanted one. The 12th loop began like all the others. But Tess wasn't the same. She stood in front of her mirror, staring herself down like she was about to enter a court trial. Or a gladiator pit. Possibly both. She straightened her hair. Then unstraightened it. Then tied it up like she didn't care, even though she very much did. Harold the mug sat quietly beside her note-filled notebook. She flipped it open. Final entry. If I'm still in the loop after this, I'm buying a goat and living on a mountain. Alone. Forever. She didn't fake a coincidence this time. She found Sam. At a park. Feeding ducks like someone auditioning for a soft indie film. He turned when she called his name. Hey, he said, smiling like he'd known her forever, even though he hadn't known her at all. I'm Tess, she said. I'm Sam. Nice to meet you. Want to spend the evening pretending time is fake and connection is real? He laughed. That might be the best pickup line I've ever heard. They walked. Ate food truck tacos with too much lime and just enough danger. She didn't tell a single lie. She told him she used to dance, but quit when rejection started feeling like home. She told him she collected postcards from cities she'd never been to. She told him she once almost moved to Barcelona to chase a girl who wrote poems about bones. Why didn't you? He asked. Tess shrugged. I didn't believe I deserved a story like that. Sam looked at her. Really looked. You do, he said. The rooftop was waiting for them like it always did, humid and humming and soft around the edges. I know this sounds insane, Sam said, standing beside her, but I feel like I've been here with you before. You have, Tess whispered. You just don't remember. He turned, eyebrows raised. What? Tess shook her head, smiling sadly. Nothing. Just déjà vu. They danced. Not because of a playlist. Not for the bit. Just because they were two people who wanted to be close. When they stopped, she didn't step back. She stayed. And kissed him. It was gentle. Real. Familiar in the strangest way. Like coming home to a place she'd never seen. Afterward, he looked at her like the stars had rearranged themselves. I want to see you again, he said. I'd like that, Tess replied. And she meant it. More than anything. She woke the next morning before the alarm. She smiled. Checked her phone. No messages. Checked Instagram. No likes. No stories. No DMs. Checked the envelope. This was your last first date. Same as always. Tess sat on the edge of her bed. She didn't cry. She didn't rage. She just nodded. And whispered. Okay. She closed the notebook. Unpinned the corkboard. Put Harold in the sink. Then got dressed. Not for a date. For herself. And this time she didn't go looking for Sam. She just walked away. Tess Linton did not believe in closure. She believed in carbs. She believed in traffic at the worst moment. She believed in weird signs from the universe that were probably just her brain looking for meaning in chaos. But closure. Neat, final, bow-tied emotional resolutions. Not a chance. Which is why, 2 years after the loop ended, Tess wasn't expecting anything, especially not him. Her life was okay. She lived in a one-bedroom with light that actually touched the floor. She worked at a publishing startup where the coffee was bad and the gossip was excellent. She had a new therapist. Human this time. Not a mug. She went on dates. Some were fine. Few were great. One guy owned a canoe, which was weirdly promising. But none of them made her forget the way Sam had looked at her when he thought he was seeing her for the first time. Every time. She didn't talk about him anymore. Not to Rena. Not to Marjorie, who now sent her postcards with cryptic messages like, "Growth is a slow spell." Tess had grown. But part of her still hurt. Not in a sharp way. More like an echo. It was raining again. 'Cause of course it was. She had just finished dinner with friends. Real adult dinner with coats and flatbread. And decided to walk home, shoes in hand, the wet sidewalk humming beneath her. She passed a florist. Tattoo parlor. An alley she avoided on principle. And then, music. Crooked. A little broken. But unmistakable. A piano melody, played on some out-of-tune keyboard. Hesitant at first, then fuller, bolder, familiar. Her feet froze. She knew that song. It was the one they danced to on the rooftop. The night of the first kiss. The first almost. They turned. A man sat beneath an awning, hunched over a battered electric keyboard. Hoodie up. Head down. Fingers moving like they'd played this song in dreams. Her heart made a sound she hadn't heard in years. Full painful thud. She stepped forward. Closer. The man looked up. And smiled. Not politely. Not curiously. But with recognition. Tess, he said. Name. Not a guess. Not a question. Memory. Truth. Her lips parted. The air felt unreal. You remember, she whispered. Sam nodded. I've been dreaming about you for months. They sat under the dripping awning like time had taken a breath and was waiting to see what they'd do next. Sam's hoodie was soaked. His shoes looked like they'd lost an argument with a puddle. And still, he looked at her like she was something he'd lost a long time ago. I didn't remember everything at once, he said. It started as fragments, like echoes. Tess sat beside him, her knees pulled close. How long? 6 months maybe. I'd see things in dreams. Or hear a phrase and know I'd heard it before. But I couldn't place it. He paused, then smiled faintly. There was a dragon lamp. Tess let out a laugh that almost turned into a sob. That lamp judged us. Exactly. Sam grinned. But that didn't make sense. Why would I remember a light fixture? Because we had the same first date. Like 12 times. He blinked. Wait, 12. She held up a finger. One dumpling loop. Another finger. One taco loop. Another. One loop where I pretended to be a jazz-hating Canadian pop star. He stared at her. Are you serious? I was emotionally spiraling. He laughed, then quieted. I thought I was losing my mind. I started going to that rooftop just hoping something would click. The music helped. You played the song. I didn't know where I knew it from. I just felt like I had to keep playing it. Like it belonged to someone I hadn't met yet. Tess exhaled slowly. You had to remember me on your own. I couldn't force it. Maybe I had to remember myself first. They sat in silence, the kind that doesn't ask to be filled. So, he said eventually, what happened to you? After the last time. I walked away, Tess said. I stopped trying to break it. That sounds impossible. It was awful. And necessary. He looked at her. Why? Because I was the one keeping it going. Sam blinked. Tess looked at her hands. I was afraid of being seen. Really seen. I thought if someone truly got to know me, my mess, my fears, the way I overthink everything, they'd leave. He didn't respond. Just watched her gently. So I looped, she said. Emotionally, magically, whatever you want to call it. The universe gave me the same perfect night until I had the guts to let it end. Why didn't it end after the kiss? Because I still wanted him to remember me. I couldn't let go until I did. Sam smiled, slow and soft. And now I don't need you to remember me. He raised an eyebrow. But I'm really, really glad you did. They watched cars go by. Watched people laugh beneath umbrellas. Watched life move. I don't want to try and recreate what we had, Tess said. That night, those nights, they weren't real. They were versions of us. Shiny, safe versions. Rehearsed. Sam nodded. So what do you want? She looked at him. I want the version where you forget your keys, and I steal the blanket, and we fight about pasta shapes. I'm a penne loyalist, he warned. I'm not sure this is going to work, she deadpanned. They both smiled. He reached out. Not urgently. Not romantically. Just gently. Their hands touched. And this time nothing reset. The next morning, Tess didn't wake up expecting magic. She made coffee. Scrolled her phone. Laughed at a meme. Forgot why she walked into the kitchen. Totally normal, average Tuesday chaos. Then her phone buzzed. Sam drifted. Dinner tonight. Like an actual dinner. With menus and no metaphysical side effects. Tess stared at the screen. Smiled. Typed back. Only if you promise not to dramatically forget me afterward. He replied with a gif of a cartoon elephant saluting. And that was that. They chose a new place. Not Dumpling Dynasty. Not a rooftop. Not anything recycled or symbolically meaningful. Just a corner cafe called Two Tables, because there were literally 2 tables inside and the owners had zero imagination. It was cramped, slightly too warm, and smelled like chai and burnt toast. Perfect. Okay, Sam said, lifting his menu. No scripted lines. No rehearsed charm. Let's get this wrong. Tess raised her glass. To forgetting the lines and remembering the person. They ordered sandwiches and tea. The first few minutes were stilted. Polite. A little too careful. Then he accidentally knocked over the sugar jar. She reached to help and spilled her tea. They laughed until the owner gave them a look. From there things softened. She learned his middle name was Alan. He learned she'd once been on a reality cooking show for exactly 1 episode, during which she dropped a full pie and cried on national television. They talked about travel, about grief, About the weird loneliness of getting older and realizing your parents are people. They didn't talk about the loop. Not directly. But it hung between them like an old joke, only they understood. As they left the cafe, Sam said, "You know what I didn't tell you?" "What?" "I hate that song." She blinked. "The rooftop one." He nodded. "Played it on loop in my head for weeks. I think my subconscious was threatening me. I thought you were the romantic one. I'm more of a sarcastic realist with good lighting." Tess bumped his shoulder. "That's okay. I'm a recovering cynic with a soft interior." They walked a while longer, not saying much. Just being. Their hands brushed, then linked. No fireworks. No time distortion. Just skin on skin. Tangible. Solid. When they reached her building, she turned to say goodnight. Then paused. Pulled the red envelope from her bag. The one she hadn't opened in 2 years. Sam raised an eyebrow. "You kept it." "I thought I threw it away," she said. "But I guess it stuck." She opened it slowly. Inside was a single card. Blank. No message. No warning. No curse. Just space. Possibility. Tess smiled. "I think that's a good sign," she said. Sam leaned in, gently resting his forehead against hers. "Me too." They didn't kiss. Not yet. But it was coming. Not because of fate. 'Cause they chose it. Together. It didn't happen overnight. There were awkward silences and mismatched movie tastes. There were texts that took too long to reply to, and one disastrous weekend getaway that ended with them both pretending they hadn't cried over a soggy mattress and a broken GPS. But there were also quiet mornings. Slow Sundays. Inside jokes that didn't need explanation. Hands that reached without hesitation. And over time, real time, Tess and Sam built something. It wasn't perfect. It wasn't easy. It wasn't magic. But it was theirs. Sometimes, when the city felt too fast and her thoughts too loud, Tess would find that old red envelope again. She never threw it out. Not because she believed it still held power, but because it reminded her that the heart has its own strange timing. That sometimes, the bravest thing you can do isn't chasing fate. It's standing still long enough to let someone really find you.
If you enjoyed this story, like, comment, share, and subscribe to this channel. Don't forget to hit the notification bell so you never miss a new release.